On tonight's episode, I'm joined by Mark Zavon, guitarist of the band Kill Devil Hill. Mark's here to talk about the band's brand new album, Seas of Oblivion, which is a killer one. So, Mark, welcome to Metal Mayhem ROC.
Oh, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
So, I go by the name Metal Waltz. I'm located in Jersey, and I assume you're out in California?
Absolutely, out here in LA.
Mark, I've been a big fan of Kill Devil Hill for many, many years, since the beginning. But take us back in time, and maybe for my own interest, like, where actually did the name of the band come from, and what does it mean?
Well, it's actually came from when I was in aviation school. I was in class, and they were talking about the Wright brothers and their first flight, and it was at a place called Kill Devil Hills, North Carolina, and I thought to myself, that's kind of a cool name. Maybe I'll throw that in the hat and use it later on. And then many years later, I came in, with Kill Devil Hill, and those guys were asking about a name, and so we threw it in the hat, and it rose to the top. And when they decided they wanted to use it, I dug in to find out what the origins of the name were for the town. And it turns out it had kind of a colorful origin. The pirates back in the 1700s used to call their rum Kill Devil because it was strong enough to kill the devil. So what they would do is run rum up the coast from Jamaica and sell it along the coast there. And if British ships saw them doing that, they would sail up and try and either confiscate it or tax it. So what they would do is they would run it off in skiffs, the barrels of rum, and bury them in the sand dunes so that they could come back and pick them up later. And that's how Kill Devil Hills, North Carolina got its name, because it was a great place for the pirates to stash their rum.
That's pretty awesome, man. I mean, it's a great metal name, and it's kind of a metal story, right? So, yeah,
exactly. Totally. It's making me thirsty already.
exactly, for some rum and beer. So, Mark, I mean, early on, you guys had a self-titled release, and then you released the album called Revolution Rise. That was well over 10 years ago, and you guys, it's basically been you and Dewey Bragg as the heart of the band, but you did have Vinnie Appice in there and Rex Brown. So I got to ask you, like, what the hell took so long for this last album? I mean, of course, there's the COVID in the middle, but 10, 12 years?
Yeah, well, the intention was to do another record right after we did Revolution Rise. And so we had started writing. And we actually even went in the studio, with Rex, and we recorded a handful of tracks. And, after that, we hit a couple of roadblocks. Rex decided he was going to do a solo record. And so we were like, oh, that's cool, dude. Do your solo thing. And, we'll meet up after and continue on with KDH. And so he did the solo record. He was down in Nashville doing that. I actually put out a solo record during that time as well. And then when it came time to sort of reconvene and do the next record, he was kind of hemming and hawing about whether he wanted to do it. And so we waited, for him because, he's an important part of the band. He's our brother, And eventually he did decide that he wasn't going to come back. He was going to move on and go a different direction. I don't know if maybe the Pantera thing was on the horizon at that point. I'm not sure about that. But anyway, he decided to go his separate way. And, we got Matt Snell from Five Finger Death Punch, who was an old friend of Dewey's from before Five Finger was even together. So that was an easy fit. Those guys get along great. Matt's a great guy, great bass player, awesome bass player. And so, we got him in the fold. And once we did that, things started kind of picking up steam pretty quickly. We got in the studio and tracked drums for, man, it was like we had a huge backlog because of all that time. You know what I mean? We had a bunch of time off. So there was a ton of songs. I think we tracked like 18 songs that day or a couple of days when Johnny was in there tracking drums. And so there's a bunch of stuff that didn't even get on the record, even though it's an hour long and 15 songs. There's still more stuff that we tracked that isn't even there. So, and even, beyond that, there's more stuff that didn't make this record. So, it's just a lot of material. We kept busy, but we just weren't playing out. We weren't, we didn't have a bass player at that point. So, we kind of, we're dead in the water for a minute, but, we're back on board now, and everything's pointed in the right direction. And it feels really good to finally get this thing out after all that time.
Yeah, I was going to tell you, like, you don't see many bands that put out an album and clocks in an hour 6, a little more than that, and 15 songs. And I'm not going to lie, and I'm not just saying this because you're on here, but this is just a killer album. I mean, there's no filler on this album. Every song is really, really good, and there's different kinds of songs on the album. We'll get into that, and then I want to hear your opinions on how you guys went, from, let's say, catchy poppy songs to doomy songs to trippy songs to, the ones that have that sound. But Mark, maybe for, let's say, listeners that are not familiar with Kill Devil Hill, I like to hear about what do you describe the band's sound as? Because I see it as a combination of, big guitars, real big harmonies and choruses, clean vocals, a lot of shredding, just like really, really good accessible metal. But how do you guys see your sound?
Well, I agree with what you said. I think that's fairly accurate. We're hard rock. We're with a little bit of metal here and there, and hell, I even have some classic rock influences. But the big riff is always a good thing, with guitars. But I think the real thing that makes this band special is Dewey and I singing together. Our voices are very similar, and especially live, we're able to capture that in a way that not a lot of bands are doing. And I think that when I've had a lot of people whose opinion I really respect, compliment us on that very thing. So, I think that's the thing that makes us special, or it at least sets us apart in some way.
Yeah, I would say so too. I mean, I didn't actually realize you sang as well, but Dewey's he's amazing. And I mean, I know there's comparisons to other bands that people always make. We don't have to say who they are or whatever, but you definitely hear the harmonies there. I swear to God, there's times like I close my eyes and I'm like, I feel like I'm hearing him singing like John Sykes. It's a weird thing. I don't know if he's ever heard that, but I hear John Sykes in there too.
That's cool. I love John Sykes' voice and guitar playing. The guy's a monster.
Yeah. But
he's a great singer, though. I mean, totally underrated. I think he's definitely needs to get his due, and hopefully this record's going to help him get there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, our voices sound pretty similar. It's funny because Johnny, when we were doing the demos, Johnny was in Texas. So Dewey and I are over here, and he's coming over when he can. He was pretty busy. But when he couldn't come over, I would sing on the demos, because it was just easier, and I had the ideas. I had everything all kind of, laid out. So I would lay down the vocals, put everything together, and then I'd send stuff to Johnny, and I'd been sending him the stuff with Dewey singing, and then I sent him a few with me singing as well. And one of the songs, I think he commented to me, we were talking on the phone, he's like, "Oh, Dewey sounds really good on that track." And I was like, "Oh shit, dude, that's me. That's not even Dewey,
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, but that's going to really lend itself to a great live setting when you guys get out on the road, because you do have there are those thick layers of vocals on a lot of the tracks, and it makes the track special, right? So
right, yeah, and we're able to do that live. Like I said, I mean in fact, it's the funnest part of playing live for me. Is nailing those vocals. If we can really get those as tight as they can be, that's the real payoff for me. Putting on a good show like that.
Yeah. So, Mark, before we get into the songs themselves, like the cover out, I'm an old school guy. I'm 53. I buy CDs still, and I love like the whole package, man. And it's a killer image, the big pirate ship up there. So what's the image about, and how does it link back to the title of the album?
Well, the image was done by Mr. Sam Sharon, who's an amazing dark artist. The guy he's done a lot for a lot of famous bands. He did our last record album cover too, the Revolution Rise. But the idea was based on the name of the band. So with this record, we sort of wanted to get back to the roots of what we talked about earlier, where the whole pirate rum story that kind of gave birth to the name and all of that, and kind of tie that all back together. So having the pirate ship on the front and naming it Seas of Oblivion is kind of a metaphor for what's going on in this world. It's kind of a crazy world where you don't know, what's going to happen next, or sometimes it doesn't even feel like you know where you're going. And so, and a lot of the songs have pirate metaphors and things like that in there that are kind of tied in like a pirate's perspective on modern day problems and stuff like that. So, there's a few that are a little bit more pointed, like that California track you were talking about. But yeah, there's a lot of that stuff kind of intertwined. So it made sense to kind of go with that vibe for this record.
Yeah, I figured as much. A tie-in when you listen to the lyrics. I mean, even on the opening track, Blood in the Water, I mean, it can make analogies to like a shark going after its prey, but there's a lot more to it behind it. But listen, I got to say that song and the second track, Before the Devil Knows, I mean, to me, this is the signature sound of Kill Devil Hill. I mean, that opening track, just the line, the smell of fear as the end draws near, it's just big and accessible, catchy choruses. And then on the second track, it's a little introspective there. I raise my glass to the past and whatever lies ahead, right? So just big choruses, big riffs, big melodies. Great way to open the album. Talk about those two tracks.
Yeah, Blood in the Water was a riff that I had in my phone for like a year. And finally, we put it all together. And when Dewey and I got in and started working on the vocals together, the vocals came really fast. So the guitar riff was there for a while. But then once we put it together, it was pretty simple. I sent it to Johnny. He immediately came up with a drum pattern that was perfect for it. And it was a quick one after that. Before the Devil Knows was something that we put together, and it was kind of, it's funny how it worked out, because now looking at the lyrics and what they're about, it's almost like it's talking about, our time with Vinnie and Rex, and how we raised a glass to that, you know what I mean? And then moving forward with, Mark II, Kill Devil Hill Mark II right now. But I didn't realize that at the time when we were writing it about, other problems that had been going on and, personal experiences that we had. But, it's an interesting kind of perspective now looking at it with new eyes, that it could apply to that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting too there. As after those tracks kind of end, and then you go into Playing with Fire, and I should say that's a lyric video as well. I should say the first two songs both have videos out there for anybody that wants to go listen. Look at YouTube. There's a million videos out there for the band, but this one is like different, man. It's got that down-tuned riff. You kind of hear, again, the singing of the two of you together. I mean, dare I say it has that little bit of Lane Staley, Jerry Cantrell sound to it, but really cool track. Talk about that one.
Yeah, that was one that we put together that was definitely built around the vocals. I mean, there's so much harmony stuff going on in it. In fact, when we went to go play it, not this past weekend, but the weekend before, we did our first shows in quite a while. Yeah. And we played 5 of the songs off the new record, which a lot of them, I think only one of them we'd ever played live before. So when we went to go play Playing with Fire for the first time, I realized that I had never sang and played that stuff together at the same time. It was all done in layers in the studio, right? So you just layer it and everything's fine. It sounds great. Okay, cool. But then when you've got to try and recreate all of that stuff live and you're only one guy, it's a different kind of challenge. So it's kind of like chewing gum and walking and rubbing your tummy and patting your head at the same time. But at the end of the day, it all worked out. It was fine. And it's just another challenge. And the challenge is kind of the best part of it. That's the fun part. But yeah, that song is definitely, Dewey's a huge Lane Staley fan. He always has been. But I think he's his favorite singer, and that shines through. Certainly, we're all a product of our influences, so I'm sure people can hear who I grew up on and the way I play. And, I don't think there's any shame in that. Honestly, I think, imitation is the purest form of flattery, right? I mean, those are the people that you grew up on and care the most about. So, but yeah, we love playing that song, and we did, like I said, 5 others in the set this last time, or 4 others. And it was a really good time, trying to play those for the first time for people.
I bet. I mean, talking about your influences, there's the category I categorize like the Sabbath type songs, the dark songs, the trippy songs. I mean, the bitter end, the title track, and of course the closer, the actual cover of Solitude off their Master Reality. But those, again, like, they doomy, heavy riffs. They're trippy, they're slow, they're chugging along. They're everything we kind of love about that kind of style of song, and it brings that whole different other element to Kill Devil Hill. So talk a little bit about a couple of those, and why did you choose that particular Sabbath song, let's say, to cover?
That one was Dewey's idea. And, it was during a time, I think that was during COVID, where, there really was a lot of that feel going on, where there was just nothing going on in the world, and you're locked in your room, and there's, nowhere to turn. And you just, we were both really feeling that vibe. And, when he came over and suggested it, I was like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. Let's definitely do that. Especially, he started singing some of it, and I'm like, oh man, that's perfect for your voice. It's like right in his range. It just, it was a perfect fit. So we started messing around with it, and it's just me and him. There's no drums on it or anything. If there's any bass, I think I might have thrown a little sketch bass line in there or something. But yeah, it was just him and I screwing around when we had all our downtime over here at my house. So, but yeah, it was a great choice, I thought. And, kind of a tip of the hat to Pantera too. I always loved their Planet Caravan cover, the way they did that. And so, we were like, all right, well, maybe we'll do that kind of a style with it and see what happens, and yeah, it worked out. So it was a lot of fun.
What was going on with the music? I'm not a musician myself, but like you hear guitar and it sounds like there's some keys and maybe a little piano. Like what actually was the music there?
Yeah, it was just me, messing around with some keyboard parts and some, I don't know. I think I had a triangle, or I don't know what else I had in there. It was just, stuff to try and, fill it out and give it the vibe, more than anything else, and try to be respectful of the original. I mean, that's super important. Whenever you do a cover, to me, I mean, like, you can take liberties with a cover song, and sometimes it's cool when you take it to a completely different place. But if you're, at least respectful of the original and keep the original parts and most of the original arrangement and the lyrics and all that stuff together, the melody, then, you can kind of have your way with it and it's still cool.
Yeah, definitely. So no, I love that one. I was actually shared that one out to a bunch of my Sabbath friends that may not know Kill Double Hill, but I was like, check this cover out. This one is totally great. And I'm see that you got a little shout out on Sirius XM on that one too, which is cool. But
yeah.
And I like how Seas of Oblivion, in the track order is cool too, because I'd almost call it like your Sabbath track before the Sabbath track, because they end the album perfectly, right?
Right. Yeah, that's definitely a slower tempo, dirgy kind of vibe with that one. And and that vibe actually was sort of what set the tempo for, the whole vibe of the record in a way, as far as like just maybe even more lyrically, or just the darkness of it, came from that.
Yeah. So, Mark, a couple of the bigger songs, let's say your singles. I mean, we talked about it early, but You Can't Kill Me, California. I mean, I crack up at that song because, I'm a New Jersey guy, born and raised here. I'm never going to leave here. I don't know if you're a California guy, but I hear kind of the frustration in your voice. The line "selling snow jobs in the sunshine" is just classic. So, on the East Coast, everybody kind of says, "Oh, California." I remember one of those Superman movies when I was a kid where they said, just blow it up and it'll just fall into the Pacific Ocean and it won't exist anymore. So what's this one all about?
Well, I mean, it just shines a light on some of the stuff that's going on over here. I mean, California, I'll be honest, I've lived here for over 20 years. I love it here. It's beautiful. The weather's insane, and there's a lot of great stuff and some great people. But it's a victim of bad management, I think, and in a lot of ways, it's getting worse faster and faster. And, when you live here and you see it firsthand, it's like, oh, this used to be a good neighborhood. Now it's not, these, why are all these tents here, and it's just, I mean, it's not that I don't have a heart, and, I know people have, their different situations, but man, when you can see some of the stuff, when we're paying $2 more a gallon for gas than other people in the country, you're just paying a tax to somebody, to live in this state. And that's not right, So, I mean, there's just a bunch of stuff that added up to make a pretty decent song, and because at the end of the day, it's called You Can't Kill Me, California. I'm still here 20 years later. It's been trying to kill me for 20 years and hadn't succeeded. So, I mean, at least we're still here to tell the story. But yeah, I mean, it's a shame because like I said, I love this place. I've considered leaving, and, I don't want to, but I feel like at some point it's coming that I'll have to. And so, I guess I'll just hope for the best and prepare for the worst. But that song's definitely a testament.
But you know what? But the cool part about that song, it's fast. It's like it's a killer rock and roll song, man. I wouldn't even call it metal. It's a rock and roll song with some heavy riffs. It's like, it's a good one, man. Like it's just gets your blood up there. So, but I can say the same here, living out here in New York. It's the same thing, New York and New Jersey. They run very similar. A lot of the similar problems. We've seen it. It makes us sad, but you don't give up, right?
Right. Exactly. But, I mean, that song even has kind of a punk rock vibe a little bit because it's so angry about it.
Now, the other song, Pharmaceutical Sunshine, man, this is a favorite of mine. I mean, to me, it's an epic track. It's epic. It's got a lot of emotion to it. Very complex song. And then, it's really about a really telling and important subject in this world about pharmaceutical pill abuse and how it's taken down people in this world. And it's become its own pandemic to a degree. Then you got the video where you guys are out in the desert riding a motorcycle. So, talk about this one in the video a bit.
Well, I mean, it's one that's really close to us. It's close to our hearts because we've had guys in the band have had family members that have had issues with opioids. And, it's something that when you have to look it in the face, it's really a heartbreaking situation, when you care about those people. And so when we were writing it, we're writing it from the perspective of trying to shine a light on it and try and, at least call some attention to it, because truthfully, man, you don't see it on the news because a lot of these news channels are sponsored by pharmaceutical companies. And so, they're not going to shine a light on that stuff. But the reality is you got 130 people dying of opioid overdoses every day. That's like a 737 going down every single day. And you don't even see it on the news. It's like it's nothing. And somebody's got to shine a light on that stuff. So we felt like, at least with this, we could call some, shine a light on it, bring some awareness and let people that are going through this stuff know that they're not alone, because it's kind of a really lonely, depressing situation for people who have these addiction issues. So, if we can if we can help at all, I mean, if we can even just, make people feel like they're, not alone in the struggle, then, at least there's that. And when we shot the video, we went out to the desert and we trucked those Harleys out there and all that backline gear. And it was a kind of a pain to get out there and get it all done. But at the end of the day, it worked out really well. And I'll be honest, riding out there was a lot of fun. But the desert itself winds up being kind of a metaphor for being lost in the whole situation with the pharmaceutical issue. It's like we're out there wandering in the desert looking for a way out, and that's the thing, these people who have these problems are looking for a way out. So, pharmaceutical sunshine, I think it's a little sarcastic, but I mean, it's pointed at helping people understand what's going on and realize that this is a major problem. This isn't something that can be just swept under the rug or ignored by the media. This is happening to families and people all over this country and all over the world, truthfully.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask you a question. Like, what desert was that? And I assume all four of you guys are motorcycle riders?
Well, yeah, that's a good story. Well, it was El Mirage Dry Lake Bed, which is about 2 hours out of LA, up kind of north, east. And Johnny, so the three of us, Matt, Dewey, and I, we all ride. We all, have ridden motorcycles for years. Johnny knew how to ride, but didn't really know how to ride. So I got a couple dirt bikes over here at my place. Me and my wife have some. And so I took Johnny out on her bike and I was like, just follow me around and make sure you get your sea legs, make sure you're good, And so we get out, we ride around the neighborhood a little bit. And I'm like, are you all right? And he's like, oh man, this is fun, And I'm like, all right, cool. So we had to go back and I rented him a Harley for the shoot. So we get out there and he's riding around and I'm like, all right, let's hey, Johnny. He takes off across the desert. He's having a blast. I mean, he just can't get enough of it. So we get done with the video shoot. Everybody goes home. We return all the stuff. Everything is over. I think it was a group text the next week. He's like, it's your fault. It's your guy's fault. And he sent a picture of a bike that he bought. It was the exact same bike from the video shoot he bought for himself. So he definitely got bit by the bug. And so he's out riding around Texas right now, probably.
That's pretty awesome, man. That's a good story. But hey, you had some fun, out in the desert, great song, and he bought a bike, blew his bonus check, right?
Exactly. And now he's tinkering with that thing and everything. You say, I'll check out my new exhaust.
That's awesome, man. That's a good story. So, Mark, but a couple of the other tracks, then there's like a category I say are like your happy tracks, right? Darkest Days, it's very catchy and melodic, big harmonies and melodies, and it's almost like one of those songs like Less is More. And then you have a song like Seize the Day. Like you can almost imagine if that one, if there was FM radio still, you could see that one on there, short, quick one, and just a real good guitar solo in there. So talk about some of these tracks.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because, they were written over a long period of time. And, like Darkest Days was one where it was a guitar riff that kind of, worked its way into a song. I made an arrangement for it and kind of tinkered it up to where it was. And Dewey and I got together on the vocals on that one. I think he laid out the melody for that song. And I think what was the Seize the Day was actually based on a quote from Eleanor Roosevelt, if you can believe that. She had a quote years ago that I always thought was so astute, and I don't know if I could. I think her quote was something like, "What was it? The past is not assured, and the present is a gift." Or no, I knew I was going to screw it up. It's like the past is gone, the future is not assured, and the present. Yeah, I did it again. But yeah,
you got to stay in the present. That's it, right? Got to live in the present.
That's why. That's why today is a gift, and that's why they call it the present. Yeah. So yeah, it's an interesting quote. And anyway, I thought it was really, really well thought out. And so that's what the chorus of that song's built around, was that quote. It's not an exact quote or anything like that, but it's kind of, appropriate. It's like, we've got today, and there's nothing you can do about the past. It's gone, the minute. In fact, I just told this aspiring guitar player the other day, he's all nervous and playing up on stage. And, he made a mistake and I could see it's getting in his head, and he's making more mistakes. He got off stage. I was like, listen, dude, the minute you make a mistake, let it go, because that is gone. You're never going to get it back. Yeah. You got to just wash that out of your hair and just keep your eyes pointed forward. Don't you dare look in the rearview mirror. You know what I mean? Because it'll get in your head and it'll screw you up. And the same is true for a lot of things in life. If you can let that stuff go and just focus on what you're doing right now and what you're going to look forward to in the next couple of whatever days, weeks, months, whatever it is, you can stay a lot happier than if you're focused on the past and things like that. So that song's about that stuff.
It's like, you're so right, Mark. It's everything in life, right? You teach your kids that and stuff like that. You say, guys, like, don't worry. It's a learning experience. You move on and you move ahead, right? It's like the classic Van Halen song right now this is just in that same line, right? It's your chance to go ahead, man. Don't worry about the past. Your chance to go ahead and rebuild it. But Mark, the last track I want to ask you about is another good one. I call it your power ballad, From the Ashes. But it's got to be a story behind this one. The lyrics: sell all your sorrow, you buy all your fame. The pride that you borrow, you pay back with shame. So what's this one about?
Yeah, it was inspired by some of the internet, influencers or people who will do anything for their 15 minutes of fame, either on TikTok or Instagram or whatever they're doing. And it was, you don't see behind the scenes of what happens to those people. You get the video clip, and then they're big, and then it's like what David Lee Roth said, here today, gone later today, and those people have sometimes real problems chasing that after they either attain it or don't. And it was just a situation where those kinds of issues kind of cross a lot of boundaries. That was the idea of the song, came from that. But once we got into writing it, we realized that, this applies to a lot more people than just that kind of group. It could apply to anybody, anybody with, substance problems, or anybody with, all kinds of, issues, with addiction issues, whether it's gambling or anything like that. You can kind of point that at that sort of a scenario. But yeah, we stepped way out of the box on that song. And, when Dewey started singing on it, because I was a little apprehensive, I'd say, I was like, wow, all the slide guitar and stuff. This all sounds country a little bit, it's kind of weird for us, definitely a departure. And when Dewey started singing it, though, I was like, oh no, that's definitely Kill Devil Hill. I could hear, and the emotion that he had, because he's had some personal experiences that, kind of, I think, informed his emotional, response in singing it, that helped him to really give it a level of, or a depth, or I don't know, a level of believability that really makes that song feel as heartfelt as it really is. And so, yeah, I think it worked out really well, a lot better than I expected. Like I said, I wasn't sure about it at first. I thought it was going to wind up, in the trash pile after, because some songs make it, some songs don't make it. There was a bunch that I thought were going to make the record that didn't make it. But it's like when you get them in and you start playing them and they don't make the cut, sometimes you just have to say, all right, it's not meant to be. And sometimes for me, especially, I lose my objectivity so much because I'm so far involved with the writing process and everything that I don't know. It's hard for me to tell a good song from a bad song. I mean, I can tell if it's horrible, but I mean, once they're done and they're all finished songs, they're kind of like, which one do you like better? You know, it's like, do you like pecan praline, or do you like butter pecan, or do you, you know, like, which one do you like better? I don't know. I can't tell anymore because I've lost my objectivity completely, but those guys always help me out with that. And I trust their opinions. And so we're lucky to have those guys, you know, helping out.
Yeah. Well, Mark, it's a great album. We've covered off on a lot of the songs. You mentioned you did some shows out on the West Coast. Any chance you're coming out to Jersey and New York anytime this year?
Fingers crossed. We're trying to set something up for March. So I don't know where we're going to go exactly. You know, that's going to depend on a few different factors, truthfully. But we're working with an agent right now, and he's setting things up for us. So hopefully we can do a few weeks in March, you know, 3 weeks in March. And hopefully next summer we can get out and do some festivals and some stuff like that as well. So we're looking forward to it. Honestly, it's been a long time and we're chomping at the bit to get going. It's going to be hard to spend the rest of this year just doing this press promo type stuff. But, you know, I know it's got to be done, and we're excited about having the record out. So people get a chance to digest it and kind of decide what they want to do. And hopefully come out and see us as soon as we're out there, which will hopefully be early next year.
That's awesome. So where can we find out information about the band?
We've got a website. It's killdevilhillmusic.com. And we've got a newsletter on there as well. If you sign up for that, then anytime there's a news story or anything like that, it goes straight to your email, which is super easy to keep up with. We've also got socials. We've got Facebook /KillDevilHillMusic, Instagram /KillDevilHillMusic, YouTube /KillDevilHillMusic, and all our videos are on there. We've got some cool behind the scenes videos too that are up there. Rex smashing a guitar, or, you know, to make firewood one time. That was pretty fun. And there's a bunch of stuff that's still getting ready to come out. Just Dewey cutting up at the rainbow and just, you know, us joking around and stuff like that. But all our videos are on our YouTube channel. You can sign up and subscribe to that. And then we're on Twitter as well. And yeah, if just anybody wants to sign up for that and just hunt us up and find us, see what you can do. We're always on there. Try to stay current as much as we possibly can.
That's cool. Mark, before we sign off here, a couple questions about your heavy metal history. So I'm a big fan of Mandy Lion in World War III, and I saw in your bio that you actually played some time with him. I haven't heard anything from Mandy in years. And the other thing I wanted to ask you about real quick is for your solo album, you covered the Billy Joel song Big Shot. And I think the video's really, really funny where you're kind of playing a wedding band. And I wanted to know, did you end up getting the chick at the end in the red dress?
Well, you know, what's funny is the chick that's dancing next to the chick in the red dress in the last scenes is my wife. So we're going to go with no. But no, Mandy, I haven't talked to him in years. I played in his band for a short period of time, and it was a lot of fun. Those songs are fun to play. Got to play with Jimmy Bain. Jimmy was in the band at the time. And the drummer in that band is the guy that hooked me up with Vinnie Appice. So, you know, it was a connection. It was kind of the small world kind of thing that happens when you hang out in LA long enough. You wind up knowing somebody that knows somebody. And, yeah, Mandy was great. Mike Devin also played with me in that band, who's, I think he was with Whitesnake. I'm not sure what he's doing right now, but yeah, I think Guess Who maybe. But anyway, so Mandy's a great talent, you know, and he did that record with Vinnie and Jimmy.
Yeah.
And so it was fun playing those songs. I really enjoyed it. And that solo record was a lot of fun to do as well. In fact, I've got enough material to do another one. I don't know, down the line, I think I probably will put another one out. But in fact, some of the stuff that we recorded that I had Brian Tichy play on, you know, didn't make the record because it just wasn't done in time. So, you know, there's a pile of stuff that's ready to go if I just spend a little time on it. But right now we're really pointed at getting Kill Devil Hill back out on the road. And you know, I've always felt like this band never quite got its due. It's like we almost got there. Like we'd almost get there and then something would happen. And we almost get there again and something would happen. And so I really want us to finally get where I feel like we've been going this whole time. You know, even with the bumps in the road that we've had to endure and all of that, I feel like this record, you know, shows that we can still do it and that we're ready to go. So hopefully people can see that, and, you know, we'll be out there here shortly in front of some bigger crowds.
Well, Mark, we got your back here at Metal Mayhem ROC again. I love the album. best of luck with it. It's new, and we hope to have you on the show again down the line and see you at a show someday, hopefully in New Jersey and New York. So it's great having you on, and thanks again.
All right, thanks. Well, appreciate it, brother.
All right, take care, buddy. Good luck. Cheers.
Cheers.
Metal for Life.
Thank you for listening to Metal Mayhem ROC. Check out our website at metalmayhemroc.com for information on podcasts, archives, links to all our live radio shows, and all sorts of info. Please like, follow, and share with everyone, even your non-metal friends. And always remember to keep it heavy.